In today's class, I will talk about nested if-else in C programs. We know that in C programs, statements are executed sequentially as they are written in the programs. But there may be scenarios where the program flow or execution will jump from one place to another place based on some condition. So in that case, some of the statements are not executed sequentially, rather they are executed based on some conditions. So in the program, whether a condition is true or false, depending on that, we take some decisions. If a condition is true, a statement or a block of statements are executed. And if the condition is false, maybe some other statements are executed in the programs. So always in practice, in any programming language, this decision making plays an important role, and that we execute by the help of if-else statements. And there may be scenarios like if a condition is true, then some other condition is checked, and if that condition is true, maybe some other condition is checked, and if that condition is true, then some statement is executed. Otherwise, if that condition is false, then some other statement is executed. So in the program, we may have if statement under another if statement, and that is the concept of nesting of if statement, or we say nested if. So in today's class, first we quickly revise the if-else statement, and then we will go to the nested if-else part. So first we will see some examples of decision making based on some conditions. So if it rains, then we will carry umbrella. If suppose the age is more than 60, then the person will be declared as senior citizen, otherwise not. If the room is dark, then what we will do, we will switch on the lights, otherwise not. If marks is less than 40, then that particular student will repeat the paper. If the code is 5, then only the hobby will be taken as music. So these are the examples where if a particular condition is true, if that condition is satisfied, then based on that we are doing some work, or with a statement is executed or will be executed in the program. Now this is the diagrammatic representation of condition checking that we have already used in our flowchart design. So here this is the decision making block. Within this decision making block, a condition will be checked, and before this condition is checked in that program, there may be some other statements which will be executed before this condition. And this is the program flow after execution of all those statements. Then we are coming to this condition checking, and if this condition is true, then the program logic or program flow will go to some statement. So here we will have some statement that will be executed based on this condition, and when that condition is true. And if that condition is false, then the program flow will go through this path, and there we will have, or we may have, some other statements which will be executed. Now the same thing we will see in this part of flowchart, where again we may have some other statements in the program here. Then once those statements are processed, the program flow now will come to this decision making block where this condition will be checked, and once that condition is true, then the program flow will go through this path, and then this statement here, we may have a single statement, here we may have a block of statements, they will be processed, and then the program flow will come to this block. But if the result of this condition checking is false, then directly the program flow will come to this particular block, and whether the result of this condition checking is true or false, irrespective of that, this set of statements or this block of statements will be always processed in the program. So within this flowchart, what we are seeing here is we are checking here within this part only, we are checking only one condition, and that will be processed in the program by the help of a single if statement. So this is the syntax how we write in the program. So this dotted line represents that we may have some other statements, or we may have some lines of codes in the program that is not part of this if logic. So once the program flow comes here, this condition checking, so in the program this keyword will be using if, and then within parentheses we will be writing the test condition, and then within this opening and closing braces we will be writing all the statements that will be processed as per the requirement of the program. So here we may have single statement, we may have a block of statements, and once that block of statements are processed, the program flow will come here where we have some other statements, and then remaining lines of that program will be processed as per the logic that has been written. Now what we can see here is we have only one condition that we are checking in this part of the program, and we are saying that if that condition is true, then what to do. But if that condition is not met, if the result of that condition is false, we are not specifying that what we will do in that case. So in simple if statement we don't have any else part, so we don't mention that if that condition is not true, else what to do. So that logic or that syntax is very simple. Now this is a piece of program where we are checking this condition a minus b not is equal to 0. A and b both are variables, they have been declared beforehand, and if that is not equal to 0, if that condition is true, then based on that we are calculating something. And here c and d, these two are also variables, they have been declared beforehand, and based on this expression we are calculating, and that result we are saving in this variable which is named as a ratio. And then once that calculation is done, we are printing that value on the terminal, and as per the syntax of the C program we have written here. But if that is a minus b is not equal to 0, if that condition is false, means if a minus b is equal to 0, then what to do, that is not mentioned in this program because we don't have any else part here. Next we will see if a particular condition is not satisfied, then what to do. In the syntax we will have else part that we know. So when the program flow is coming here, this particular condition is checked, and if the result of this condition is true, then we are executing this block of statements. But if the result of this condition is false, then we are executing another set of statements, another block of statements, and whether the result is true or false, finally it will reach to this block of statements, and the execution of this block of statements is common whether the result of this condition checking is true or it is false. And once this statement is done or this statement is processed, then there will be, or there may be some other statements which will be executed sequentially, or there in the program we may have some other condition checking. Whatever, only if we focus only this part, then what we can see here is we have a true part, and based on that we have some execution, and we also have a false part, and based on that we have some other execution, and that is handled in the program by the help of if, and corresponding to that we have a else part. So here balance is a variable in that program. So if that balance is greater than 5000, then what we are doing, we are calculating some bonus and we are multiplying that balance by some factor that is 0.05. But if that condition is not true, then the program flow will come to the else part, and that is the role of else in the if else statement or in any program or in any programming language. So else what it does, else when the condition checking is false, the program flow goes to the else part. So when the balance is less than equal to 5000, then the program flow will go to the else part. It will not process this statement, rather this statement will be processed when the balance will be multiplied by 0.04. But whether the condition was true or the condition was false, whether the bonus has been calculated based on this formula or the bonus has been calculated based on this formula, always the program flow will go to this part when the balance will be added with bonus, or the previous balance will be added with the newly calculated bonus, and then the dash summation will be saved in the balance variable again. And the important point that we should notice here is the statement or statements that will come under if or else part, they will be enclosed within this opening and closing brace, and same thing happens for the else part also. So that clearly says to a programmer or even to the compiler also, that this block of statements are actually part of this if statement, and this block of statements is part of this else statement. It also increases the readability of the and understandability of the program. And another important point what we have noticed here is this else part. This is exactly aligned with its corresponding if part. And also we know that in C programs we maintain indentations. So this block of statements has a gap with this if statement, and this block of statements also has same gap with this else statement, and this block of statements and this block of statements are aligned with each other. And this statement where we are calculating this balance, whether the result of this condition checking is true or false, that means this execution of this statement is not part of this condition checking. So this is always true, means this will be always executed, and that's why the alignment of this line or this block of statements will be with other lines of the programs that we have written before this condition checking or maybe after this condition checking. Now we will see the main part of today's class, which is nested if else. So one condition under another condition, or one if under another if. So this is the program flow. Now we will be checking the first condition, and if the result of that condition is true, then we will be checking another condition, and if the result of that condition is also true, then we will be executing some statement or a block of statements. But if the result of the second condition, means condition true, is false, then the program flow will go to this side and the program will execute another statement or another block of statements. And if the result of this condition, the first condition, is false, then the program flow will go to this side and it will execute another statement. And once all these condition checkings and executions of these statements are done, then the program flow will go to the statement X and that will be executed. So always only two statements will be executed, either statement 1 and X, or 2 or X, or 3 and X, and then we will have some other statements that will be maybe processed sequentially, or that may be processed based on some other conditions. So this is how the nested if that concept works in C programs. This has been shown by the help of only two conditions, but in the real scenario we may have more than two, n number of conditions in our programs, and based on that theoretically we may have nth layer of nesting. We may have theoretically n number of nested if, but practically if we include more number of nested if, then for us being a programmer it becomes difficult to keep track of the program and it loses the readability and understandability. So we handle that type of logic in the program some other way more efficiently. Now this is the syntax of nested if else in C programs. So here we are checking the first condition, and if that condition is true, then the program flow will go here and it will check the second condition. And if that condition is also true, then this statement 1 will be executed. But if the result of this second condition is false, then the program flow will skip the execution of this statement and the program flow will go to the else part and it will execute statement 2. But if the result of the first condition that itself was false, then it will skip this piece of code where we are checking the second condition, and based on that either the statement 1 or the statement 2 was executed. So it will skip statement 1 and statement 2. It will straightforward come to this else part. This else part corresponds to this if, and that's why this else is aligned with this if and this else is aligned with this if. So once the program flow comes under this else part, it will now execute the statements that is written under this else part. So that means statement 3. And once this statement 3 is executed, the program flow will go to statement X. And what we can notice here is statement X is not part of this condition 1 or condition 2 checking. Rather, the statement X will be always processed. and that's why this statement X is aligned with this if and this else. And secondly, this statement X has been written after this closing brace. This closing brace corresponds to this else. This closing brace corresponds to this if. Now this is a sample piece of program where we are checking which number is largest among A, B and C. So if before this we have a few lines of codes as per the format of the C program and the declaration part and all, and if after the program flow comes here, now we are checking if this variable A is greater than B or not. So if that condition is true, means A is greater than B, then we are checking whether A is greater than C or not. And if that is also true, that means A is greater than B as well as C. That means A is the largest. So accordingly, we are printing that the largest number is A. And this is as per the syntax of C programs. But if A is not greater than C, then the program flow will come to the else part. So A is not greater than C means what? C is greater than A. So if C is greater than A and at the same time A was already greater than B, that means C is also greater than B. So what is the conclusion? C is the greatest number. And accordingly, we are printing that the largest number or greatest number is C. So this is the part when A was greater than B. And that was under the when this condition checking was true. Now suppose if that condition, this here itself the condition was false, then the program flow will skip all these things that has been written within this opening brace and closing brace. And what has been written within this opening brace and this closing brace, that is actually part of this else. Now A greater than B, this condition checking is false. That means B is greater than A. So keeping that in mind, now we will be checking whether C is greater than B or not. So B is greater than A, and now we are checking whether C is greater than B or not. If that condition is true, that means C is greater than B as well as A. That means the largest number is C, and accordingly we are printing here. But if this condition is false, then the program flow will go to this else part, and that means false means what? B is greater than C. That means B is greater than C as well as A. So conclusion is B is the largest number, and accordingly we are printing. Here the compiler will get this closing brace and it will understand this is the end of this else part. And the program flow will come out of this whole condition checking, the whole if else part. So this is how the nested if else works. So I hope you have understood the concept of nested if else. In the next class, we will be getting some more idea about the condition checking and decision making. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you.